Your guide to the truth. TheNewAmericanMedia.com.
Broadcasting to you live from the Milky Way Galaxy, the solar system, planet Earth, North America, the United States of America, California, Los Angeles to be specific. Hello everybody, my name is Brian Engelman and you are listening to the TNAM radio network here at thenewamericanmedia.com. This show is called Agree to Disagree. I appreciate each and every one of you listening, and I want to make sure that you're able to join our conversation once these shows are posted. Yes, they go live. You can check them out live by going to thenewamericanmedia.com, and on the right-hand side, you want to click on TNAM Radio. That's where you click play, listen live. Underneath that is our Facebook feed. Get on our Facebook link. Sharing some of the... Seriously, I think we're doing some of our best work on Facebook these days. We're following a lot of great people that are sharing a lot of great content, and there's a lot of great conversation. So go ahead and do a search for The New American Media with spaces in between, and then like our Facebook page, or pull it off thenewamericanmedia.com. Also, underneath the TNAM radio and Facebook feed is our Twitter link. We're at American_media_. And perhaps most importantly, make sure you subscribe, youtube.com/thenewamericanmedia. All right, so there's a lot of stuff going on in 2016 already, just getting going. We might have some gun control. I hate the phrase gun control, but we'll get into that. Obama wants to try to leave his mark. He knows his time is running out, as the Muse song says. So, well, our time is running out. So he's trying to, some common sense gun reform. Shut up. One thing leads to another. It's a dangerous, slippery slope. So that's going on, and of course, there's something interesting. We're bringing back that Bundy Ranch story with the Bureau of Land Management, or the BLM. They were up to their shenanigans in Nevada. What was that, a year ago, year and a half ago? I don't know, however long ago it was. Blake Walley, Blake the Eccentric, and I, he's on Twitter at Eccentric99. Make sure you follow him. He and I went and covered that as it was outside of his... what does George say? His not-so-humble home of Las Vegas. Was it Sin, Sand, Sund? I don't know. He has this whole thing.
City, what?
What's that?
Where are you getting that, Sin City? What?
It's, I actually want to pull it up. Let's see if I can find it. It would be George Knapp, the host of Coast to Coast on the weekends. Let's see. George, KNAPP, Coast to Coast intro. Bursting out of the radio like a Scirocco. Oh, cool, it's on here. I'll just let him say it. Hopefully I don't get flagged for this. But this is fair use. No, they're going to flag it because of the music. Doggone freaking thing. You know what, I'm going to do it. I'm still going to find it. Now I'm curious. Now I'm...
Can you talk over it? That'll be okay or no?
I don't even feel like dealing with it. Bursting something like a Scirocco, my not-so-humble hometown of sun, sand, sin, sex, and... who cares? Whatever, you get the point. Listen to Coast to Coast. Anyway, but yeah, it was outside of Blake's hometown, so we went out and covered it last year. You know, I swear, if I had a producer... to borrow a Hugh Hewitt line. If I had a producer, except he does have one. Anyway, I digress. But yeah, the Bundys, Ammon Bundy is up there in Bend, Oregon, and you got some weird stuff going on. So, of course, we're bringing Blake, the Eccentric, back into the program to discuss it. Blake, how you doing today, sir?
Fantastic, Brian. How are you?
Living the dream, man. So I gave you a brief intro. I kind of tried setting this up, but I got distracted with trying to figure out how to spell Scirocco and how to nail his word-for-word, verbatim, awesome open. George Knapp, that is. But, of course, that's not relevant. So let's get to the story. Can you give us the proper background of what happened at Bundy Ranch, who Ammon Bundy is, and what's going on in Bend, Oregon? Just to kind of get the ball rolling and kind of do the reset.
All right, well, Ammon Bundy is the son of Cliven Bundy, the rancher from, the Bundy Ranch. The main one, I guess, the older one. The, what do they call that? Anyway, he is back in the news today. Yes, there was a big showdown at the ranch because the BLM was overreaching on them, which amounted to kind of this government bureaucratic extortion. But it's basically a land grab, and yes, the BLM was way overreaching. Should not have been involved. There might have been some dirty dealing going on. They're getting the ranchers out of there so they could move some industries in there. there was all kinds of things going on.
And that was one of the things to make sure we set this up properly.
Yeah.
This is kind of establishing a pattern of, the Bundys, at least, in their words. The story was they had the BLM, the Bureau of Land Management, basically our management company. Imagine your management company at your HOA coming in with guns and dogs and snipers and helicopters, and they're killing your pets or cattle, as it were, and destroying the improvements you've made on the property, the wells, the grazing troughs, the stuff that, whatever, blah, 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 blah.
Been there for 100 years.
Yeah, been there for, over 100 years, and what their claim was that the BLM has run out almost every other rancher from that area, and they were drawing their line in the sand, literally and figuratively, and saying, hell no. No, you're not doing to me what you've done to them. We're going to put up a fight. Does that kind of sum up at least a basic synopsis of what that dispute was over?
Yeah, in a nutshell, yeah, pretty much. Yeah, so they were going after them for grazing rights and supposedly to protect some tortoise, which was totally BS.
And let's remember, Benghazi was over a YouTube video. Same administration telling us that, but
yes,
I digress, of course.
The wonderful State Department and all of their shenanigans and problems.
It's about a turtle, Blake. Turtle lives matter.
Yeah, exactly. So that was their cover story to appeal to all of their people, I guess, and the sycophants in the media that like to regurgitate that kind of garbage. But anyway, but I don't want to say like I'm biased here, because this one is totally different. This Bundy story is not anything like the other one. The other one was, and just in a nutshell, was justifiable. It was time to make a stand and for everybody to get involved. It was organic. It was grassroots. It was awesome, and you got a nice gathering there. And of course, Brian, you and I were there on the ground floor, checking it out, interviewing people, and yeah, I spent a few days there. It was a pretty awesome historical moment, I guess. So, and nothing bad happened there. That was awesome.
It was tense, man. Yeah. It was really tense. You could feel it.
Oh, it was. It got really intense, and we missed kind of the real big excitement early in the morning.
Yeah, we were there. What? We were there Friday. My days blur together, but I think it was a Friday.
Yeah, I can't remember the days, but
and then
we
everything...
were there at night, and then they were like, "Oh, we might do some little rally thing tomorrow," and like, "Oh, okay, well, we'll probably just show up in the afternoon or something." And then, yeah, by that time we already kind of missed all the excitement. It went down at like 8 in the morning on a Saturday, which was a little early for a couple of night owls like us. So,
well, yeah, we get home and we're trying to process videos and do all that stuff at night, and of course you stay up later, and so you sleep a little later, and by the time you figure out what's going on, you're like, oh my, I missed what? And you watch this footage. Yeah, I mean, but thankfully not a shot was fired. Let's say that, because that's kind of the main thing. That a lot of people, ourselves included, were saying, well, look, if we get as many cameras there as possible, it's going to make people think twice as opposed to trying to be a cowboy, to pardon the pun, because a bunch of cowboys did take back the cattle that were seized by the BLM, and it was this very Clint Eastwood-esque moment, pretty iconic moment, very interesting, standing up to your government, because as your representative, they're not supposed to be treating your people that way, or else you recall them, or worse, and we just want things to stay peaceful and resolve itself. So that's how that kind of played its way out, and it's things have kind of been chill there for a while, and then this Bend, Oregon thing has been coming up, and it's a few months brewing. It's been going on for a little while, but this is the latest development. And I guess maybe, Blake, if you could start us off explaining what's going on here. Who are the two people that are set to go to jail? They're supposed to surrender and go serve a 6-year prison sentence. Like, give us the background here of what's going on before we even get to Ammon Bundy and some of these people showing up to lend support.
Yeah, apparently it's off some older case from years ago. And I guess I don't know if it was a father-son. They were convicted of arson on their own land, but there's mixed stories on that. There's kind of it's kind of unclear, I guess, as to what happened. Because if you're a rancher and you've got hundreds of acres of land, it should be up to you on how you want to use it. And if you want to burn some of your land for good, for well-intentioned reasons or scientific reasons or what have you. It should be able to do that. And so it's just kind of, that's the controversy. But they went to jail, and apparently they only served like a year or something, and then the government kind of came in and cracked down and said, no, you were supposed to serve like a 5-year penalty. And I think they were basically guilty. It doesn't sound like they just kind of burned the land for whatever reason, because sometimes that's actually necessary if you get the, I don't exactly know the science of that.
No, the science of it is this, and I don't have it in front of me, but I believe it's jasmine. I could be wrong on the particular plant type, and I'll have to double check, because this story we've kind of crammed in and said, all right, we got to research this as much as possible, give you as much information as we have today. We'll take some time over the next few days and really dig in and gather as many specifics as we can. But what ranchers do commonly, and this is a common practice, especially in California. I'm out here in Los Angeles, and we have a wildfire season. Go figure. A wildfire season, of all damn things. It's like we're living in hell. Anyway, with the politics of this backwards state, but I digress. What will happen is, in California, wildfires will be sparked because a lot of the growth and underbrush that used to be burned off, there are all these environmental protections. They say, oh no, something like, oh, there's a tortoise there. Oh, there's a speckled hen. There's a trout. You can't do that, and so they don't let the farmers and the ranchers burn property like they used to in some places. But what happens is the undergrowth and the brush, they build up, and they set wildfires. And so what you do is you backburn it. You burn it intentionally to clear it out, to clean it up, so it's not sitting there like dry tinder waiting for a spark. And, when I've been looking into this, it's something about maybe jasmine or some of the invasive species. It'll take over, and, all the seeds, they'll sprout and spore around like dandelion seed, and then they're all over the place. But what happens is they burrow their roots down, and they start sucking up all the water. Well, when you're in an area where there's not a lot of water, or you're trying to use that water for another purpose, you don't want all of these plants sucking away the water, because it dries everything else out. So you burn this stuff down, and you get back to what you're doing. And so now this is about, did they go set fire to a city block? No. Did the BLM set fires in the past, and those fires crept over into other ranchers' property and damaged their property, and they did not have to pay them restitution for it? According to my research thus far, it's looking like that answer might be yes. And it looks like what they were doing was setting a fire on their property, and that the fire spilled over, and it's something that's also common, and you call BLM, and BLM helps you take care of this and put out the fire. So it's interesting why something that is common among ranchers and among people that are working the land in whatever capacity they want, it's odd that this one particular case is being chosen, and to throw someone in jail for 6 years for an accident on their own property is interesting when you look at the BLM, what they just did in that gold mine, or whatever mine that was, and it dumped all the toxic stuff all over down the river and destroying the habitats of tons of wildlife and humans who make their living off the land. The BLM makes a mistake. Nobody's going to jail at the BLM for 6 years. And then if this was a mistake, and these people did it, and it's a common practice, it just seems interesting why they've chosen now to make a big deal out of it.
Right. Well, it's because they were supposed to be released, and then they decided no, because I think it was supposed to be like a 5-year sentence or something, and then they only did one, and then they said no, you were supposed to, according to the law, you got to do this amount of time. And I don't even think, here's the thing, I don't even know if they were even fighting it. And this is one of the major problems of this whole event, is this Hammond family that's the guilty of arson, the father's son or whatever. Regardless of what happened, it seems like they were found guilty by jury, and I don't want to pick sides here, but it looks like, it probably got out of control, probably burnt a bunch of BLM land, and whether it was arson or not, I don't know, but they don't seem to be fighting it as being unjustified. So they're going to go back to jail, and all of a sudden the Bundy shows up, and they want to be bring a big call to action and get everyone behind this, and there's this huge event, and they ended up taking over this federal building over in Oregon during the holidays when it was unoccupied. So, fortunately nobody got hurt, but now that they're decided that they're just going to, occupy this building until they're basically forced out. But they've said they're ready to, dig in for months or years if they have to. And of course, while they're calling for the next Bundy Ranch and calling everybody around to come and support them, and apparently they've got this huge facility where they can, house people and everything. I mean, imagine the Bundy Ranch, and then imagine there's, a bunch of buildings where I guess we could just get a bunch of patriots just stacked up and rooming with each other and self-sufficient and making a stand. But
and you don't want to see another Waco or Ruby Ridge or something like that. And the Harney County Sheriff Dave Ward, he's claiming that the group of armed protesters came to town under false pretenses. This story from the Blaze, according to the Associated Press, and it says, quote, "These men came to Harney County claiming to be part of militia groups supporting local ranchers, when in reality these men had alternative motives in an attempt to overthrow the county and federal government in hopes to spark a movement across the United States." So this is the sheriff. He has his own opinion of things, and it kind of reminds you of when the sheriff in at the Bundy Ranch came out and kind of gave some half-assed speech and said, "All right, well, that's not good enough. We're going to get our stuff. Are you with us or not?" It's interesting that the sheriff has this he's got this figured out. Those are pretty strong words coming from a sheriff who's, your job is kind of to keep the peace. Think of the Old West. As a sheriff, you keep the peace. This really seems like he's going above and beyond and becoming judge, jury, and executioner right off the bat here, which I find interesting. There's also like a double jeopardy angle, and like I already mentioned, the Ruby Ridge and Waco, that you don't want to see a building burned to the ground like they did with, who was that guy in Los Angeles that killed an officer or two and ended up in a cabin somewhere and they just burned it down instead of taking him?
Yeah, I remember what you're talking about, but I can't remember the guy's name.
Yeah, I try not to remember.
Dante Culpepper-looking guy. Yeah, he was a big dude.
Dante Culpepper-looking guy. That'll suffice. I try not to give the names of murderers.
I referred to it on the radio show at the time. Like they were talking, because they were criticizing, like, why didn't they go in? Like you want to go in and try to apprehend like an angry a guy the size of Dante Culpepper who's armed and dangerous. Yeah, they burned the whole place down instead.
Yeah, and that once again though that gets us back to judge, jury, and executioner.
Right.
You got to go through this process. Well, but the double jeopardy angle is interesting, because like what you were saying, what was it? They got sentenced to a year and then they did it. What happened with that? They gave him another sentence, or they charged him again? It's
supposed to be like a 5-year sentence, but for some reason they only served one, and then they were going to get released, and then they said, "Wait a second, no, you guys are supposed to do 5 years. How come it's only this amount of time?" And no, you guys are going to have to go back. And then that's when this kind of whole started, I guess, and that they want to, like the Bundy wants to stand up for the Hammonds, but one of the major problems of this whole thing is that the Hammonds don't want the Bundys involved. They don't want a bunch of patriots coming in. They don't want anything that Bundy is calling for. So this has got a completely different feel than the Bundy Ranch.
So there was, we were talking in our production meeting that I was watching a press conference with Ammon Bundy, and then I forget the woman, how her affiliation was, but she read off their formal, the groups that were there supporting them, and they definitely mentioned at least one local Oath Keepers branch or group, and you were telling me that the Oath Keepers, Stuart Rhodes, has not endorsed any of the activities that are happening here. How much can you explain on that front?
Yeah, actually, I would direct people over to the Oath Keepers website, oathkeepers.org. There's 3 really good articles on there right now that I've seen, probably 4.
Are you going to tweet those out at Eccentric99 on Twitter?
Yeah, definitely.
Are you maybe going to put those on the New American Media as well, on Facebook?
Oh, yeah, I could do that, too.
Excellent.
There's several good videos floating around, but, yeah, this one's very different, because it's kind of divisive, because you've got some patriots that, are people out there that are ready to kick off a second revolution, but this doesn't seem to be a justifiable cause. Like I said, this Hammond family, which it should be about them, and if they want to get anything involved, and certainly the BLM is, overreaching all over the country, just as part of this bureaucratic stuff that they're, following orders for the federal government. But, where they certainly are doing some bad things, this is, nothing like where they were, basically assaulting the family and trying to chase them off the lands and outside of Vegas, outside of Mesquite there. This one is different, and they don't want a gathering. So you get two sides. You get the Bundy coming in there with using his name to try to draw attention and to draw people in. And you get the Hammond family, where it's supposed to be about saying no, we don't want Bundy, we don't want any of this stuff coming. And so I think it's kind of what Stuart Rhodes has said, is that unless they're not calling for me, and this thing isn't really justifiable in the same way the first one was.
Yeah, it's interesting. I'm over here at oathkeepers.org, and to read just the headlines of several of these different articles. One says, the Hammond family does not want an armed standoff, and nobody has a right to force one on them. Another one says, Oregon standoff, federal provocateurs, sociopaths, and idiots. One says, Ammon Bundy, martyr or revolutionary. One says, Oregon standoff, a terrible plan that we might be stuck with. So, yeah, as we gather the details here, and by the way, the left is having a field day with this. Have you checked out the social media presence of this story?
Not yet, but I mean, they just jump to conclusions all over the other one. They want to, they've already got their minds up already without even looking at the facts. So they just drive me nuts in general, and it's hard to even set them straight because they're not even going to look for the information. And they're just all assuming that the Bundy Ranch, the first one anyway, was just a bunch of racists, and how dare they go after the government, and the government should have just mowed them down and droned them or whatever. So I mean, they're kind of useless talking to the lunatic left, but I'm sure I'll get in there and see what I can do. But I mean, it's very significant because you're not getting anybody. You're not really going to get any traction behind this.
Well, what they're trying to do is definitely say anyone in a militia is a very dangerous person, and if you look
domestic terrorist.
That's exactly where they're going with this, Blake. And how Bundy Ranch has anything to do with race, I have no idea other than there's a white guy. Now we can say all white people are that way. Like, isn't that the most racist thing you can do?
Old man talking about
Oh yeah, he did say something about I'm sorry.
The Negro families, and it was a little ignorant, but it wasn't. It was taken out of context, and they edited the piece, and they looked anything. They tried to find anything they could to just demonize the whole movement.
Yeah, sicking German Shepherd attack dogs on pregnant women, and tasing people, and bulldozing over improvements, and shooting from helicopters in the sky all the cattle, and dumping them in a mass grave with a backhoe. And I don't really know how any of that has anything to do with race, but of course, the left loves that. Anything that's going to take down a white person, it's like, oh no, hey, you got too much privilege. Anything to take you down because you're all the same. You're all these types of. You're all racist. You're all bigots. You're all this. You're all that. It's like that's
exactly how they're presenting it.
Every time.
Mediaite's got an article about this standoff. That's the first thing they said. Yeah, racist rancher Cliven Bundy. Like, really? Oh, okay. Where's your proof? I guess there's just no really way to actually have a rational discussion with these people. They've got their minds up already. But I don't know where they're going to go with this one. Because, like I said, there's not going to. I don't think you're going to see a big movement here. Maybe some people in the local areas might move in there and throw their support in there. But this could be bad, and you got to be in the right. And I think that's a couple of those articles. It's like Mike Vanderbaugh and Brandon. I forget the writers of the.
Brandon Boyd from Incubus.
Stuart Rhodes. No. Actually, one of my favorite writers, Brandon Smith from AltNet. So those are three great articles that people should check out on Oath Keepers. But yeah, I will tweet those out. You'll get the full story on why they don't support that movement. And there could be another problem is that this Ammon Bundy, they could be compromised to some extent. I mean, to where they're being manipulated by. There's some suspected agent provocateurs that might be, trying to start this whole thing and then using the Bundys as, to get, to demonize basically the militia movement. So there's a lot of things, but we're wise to that. So, nobody's jumping on it. So we'll see where it goes. And hopefully, like I said, it's not going to be another Waco or Ruby Ridge, as you say. Yeah, some big government crackdown. The problem is it won't be, justifiable. It's like they were in the wrong on this one, whereas the BLM and the government were wrong at the first Bundy Ranch. So, yeah, we'll see how this develops. Yeah, but
we'll follow it and keep our eyes peeled on all this stuff. It is a developing story, this, that, and the other. And of course, you always got to be careful of someone who has every answer to everything worked out within the first day or two, and you go, have you really dug into the backstory? Do you really get the nuances of what's going on here, or are these people instantly right or instantly wrong? I try to not do that. I don't know enough to pick a good guy or bad guy in the story. I just know, once again, I want things to stay peaceful, and at least so far, there has not been some sort of David Koresh-style raid like Waco, Texas, and bulldozers and tanks and smoke grenades that set the building on fire, and we don't want to see that. Like, we got to figure out a way. The people need to have a way to peaceably protest, and that's the same thing we get on these Black Lives protesters, Black Lives Matter protesters, or not really the Tea Party, Occupy and Anonymous. Like some of these groups certainly love to block traffic, like you have a right to do that, or to burn buildings or destroy storefronts. Nobody has a right to do that. And when you see people occupying a building, it's like, is that your building? No. I mean, we know Eric Holder, the former Attorney General, when he was in college, he was part of a Black Panther group that stormed the ROTC building in college in an armed takeover. So it's interesting. Okay, fine. Step one has occurred. Does it go further? Do you endorse the step to begin with, or is that a domestic terrorist act? And if they look like you, are you more sympathetic toward them, or are you more likely to call them a thug or a supremacist or a whatever you want to call them? It's interesting. So I'll tell you what, Blake, we'll keep our eyes peeled on the story. Who knows? You might even be
taking a trip up there. Yeah, I don't know. We'll see.
We'll see how the story develops. If nothing happens, but this year you're going to be going around and doing a lot of stuff. How much of that do you want to tell people about?
Limited time. There's going to be a lot of changes in 2016. I plan on doing a lot of traveling, and nothing's quite set in stone. But hopefully I'll have some mobility and can be at certain certain events around. I know 2016 is going to be an exciting year, and I'd like to kind of get on the campaign trail of a little bit, or at least some of the major events. And so, so then I'll have the possibility of being able to cover something like when these kind of events pop up in Oregon or what have you.
Or Baltimore, or Ferguson, or
anything. Exactly. There's so many stories that have popped up, and it's up to I guess, well, not up to us. It's not our responsibility, but I think it's good. I mean, if the CNN and Fox and the major stations are there, then we need people in the alternative media to make sure that keep everybody honest and look at the narrative and so get some different points of view out there, and that is what I am intending to do. Yeah,
I mean, because that's really what the New American Media is. It's like, if you're close to something developing, film it, put it together. I mean, that's how we found Blake in the first place. You were at the RNC debacle where you caught pro-Romney people passing out fake Ron Paul delegate information. You caught him on video, did a segment on it, and it's like, that's it. That's the New American Media. Someone close to something. Someone probably lives right around outside Bend, Oregon right now. They can run over there and do a piece. Contact us. Maybe we'll do a show too. We can post your video on our site and go from there. But really,
if you're in the Bay Area or Portland, you're and backyard. I mean, when the Bundy Ranch broke, it was about an hour and a half here. But Brian, you drove 4.5 from L.A., so yeah, it's about a 6-hour trip for you.
Oh yeah. But that's the thing. You got to cover the news as it's happening, when it's happening, and do the best you can. So sometimes you're able to swing by some of these places, and other times you got to rely on other people to do it. So, it's just a matter of, do you care enough about what's going on in our country to participate, or is it okay to just sit back and let other people cover it for you? Maybe they give you the correct story, maybe they don't. But as far as I'm concerned, I would rather participate in, it looks like it's a few hours north of Medford, east of Eugene, southeast of Portland. But when you get on the road, by the way, and start doing this, obviously we're going to have you here at the New American Media doing shows and maybe doing some segments and what have you, maybe some articles and stuff. Are you still directing people toward eccentricperspective.com as well?
That's kind of just my blog for now.
Okay.
People can go look at it and just go get some ideas or there's always some interesting stuff on there. But no, I'm not quite sure exactly what I'm going to do yet. It's all going to come together in the next couple months, but Twitter is definitely the best spot to find me and go from there.
At Eccentric99. All right, we'll do that.
Right.
I guess before we wrap up, I know we're going to try to do more of these shows, quicker segments. How did we do today so far? Was that a decent length for one topic? I know we wanted to briefly touch on what Obama might try to do with Second Amendment restrictions, as if he had the power to do that. But this was...
Yeah, they're working on it. They're probably going to come out with something, that sounds reasonable, and then there's going to be more stuff behind it. It's going to set a tone. It's like, oh, okay, well, those executive actions, they're not that bad. And then, who knows what's going to happen with this Bundy standoff, and if that's going to tie together, and they're going to use it, because they don't ever talk about radical Islam. It's always radical patriot. How dare Americans have guns and stuff like that. So it's going to be interesting. That's always going to be, it's always one of the major things for Obama's agenda is cracking down on gun control. So we'll see what he does. It's going to be a couple minor things, open the door, and then see what else he can throw in there later, I suppose. And if it'll actually go down, I don't know. They've been battling for years and haven't seemed to be able to get anything through yet, but we'll see, and we'll be on top of it.
Excellent. All right. Well, it is going to be a fun 2016. We're going to see how this works out for you, where you're going to land over the course of 12 months ahead of you, what cities you're going to be in, covering what stories. It's going to be a lot of fun as we roll into 2016, see who our next president is going to be. So, Blake, thanks for joining us. And like I said, at Eccentric99, the best place to stay in touch with you. Any final words on our way out the door, sir?
No. Happy 2016.
Heck yeah. Blake.
Happy New Year. Right.
Happy New Year to you as well.
It's going to be an epic year. Everybody needs to get up and do something, because this is everything. We got so much on the line on 2016.
You're very right about that. It is on the line, so make sure you're following Blake on Twitter at Eccentric99. Blake, thank you very much. Coming up real soon here. What is it, about 45 minutes, I think? We're going to bring in former NBA scout, lifelong Cleveland sports fan Zach Barris to cover the Cleveland Browns shakeup. GM fired, head coach fired. The vicious cycle continues. Continues here at thenewamericanmedia.com. I'm Brian Engelman. Thank you very much. Peace.
Hi, everybody. You're listening to Agree to Disagree with Brian Engelman, and this is John B. Wells reminding you that not only is Brian Engelman a cool guy, and not only is thenewamericanmedia.com a very cool platform, but here's a cool idea for you, too. Are you alone? Not really. Do you like dogs? Do you like cats? You do. Of course you do. Everybody does. One or the other, maybe even both. There are a lot of dogs and cats that are at shelters right now, and if somebody doesn't take them home, they're going to wind up euthanized. That's a nice way of saying they're going to be killed, because there's simply not enough room. I guarantee it, the best dogs and the best cats, the best pets, come from shelters. There's something about dogs and cats. They know. They know where they are. You walk through one of them, and certainly at least one is going to look at you and go, I wish you'd take me home. I'm in hell. Please take me out of here. It'll be the best thing that you ever did for your soul. You'll feel good about it. And not only that, but you have a friend for life. Doesn't matter if you got money, you don't have money. Well, it doesn't make any difference to a dog or cat. All they need is the sound of your voice and maybe even the stroke of your hand, and they're fine. Maybe a little food every once in a while. The sweetest sound that those pets ever hear is your voice. Think it over and adopt a cat or a dog from a local shelter today. I'm telling you, you'll be glad you did.